I went to see Man of Steel last night, and I saw it in 3D. And basically, as soon as I got home, I couldn't wait to write a review on ePinions.com about how shitty I felt it was. So if you look down in the URL section right beneath this video, you'll see my link to my review. You can read it, and you can tell me whether or not you agree with what I've said in comments if you've already seen the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, I ask that you actually see it first before you comment. Now, the problem that I see with Superman is that basically, for the time that Superman was released in 1978, the first movie with Christopher Reeves, Superman was basically a love story rather than an action story. Now, regardless how you feel about the comic purity and how closely it sticks to the comics and whatnot, the simple fact of the matter is there'll never be another Superman like Christopher Reeves. Christopher Reeves didn't have to have all the muscles like this new guy. He didn't have to tell one-liners like all of these other action stars and this, that, and other. But the simple fact of the matter is that despite all the camp and cheesiness, the old Superman was extremely better because it was more human. And Lois Lane in the old movie was played by Margot Kidder. In this movie, she's played by Amy Adams. Lois Lane is probably the most important character other than Superman simply because she's the bridge between Krypton and Earth. She's a woman who's obviously going to end up getting pregnant by Superman and having a Superman kid. That's the only way to extend the Krypton lineage. And obviously Jor-El knew that if Superman went to Earth that he's going to meet a woman, obviously, and fall in love and this, that, and other. So Lois Lane is probably the most important character for that simple fact that she's the bridge between the gaps of two different peoples. Now, this person that is playing this new Lois Lane, Amy Adams, she basically adds nothing to the story. Superman could have just met just about anybody else. She's definitely not as the romance between them doesn't click as well as it did with the actors who played in the newer Spider-Man movies between Peter Parker and Mary Jane. That romance was a lot better. But the real problem is the effects in this new movie are so overdone, it's ridiculous. I felt like I was watching a Hulk movie where all you do is bash and smash and crash and bash and smash and crash over and over and over ad nauseum. It's disgusting what they've turned these movies into. And why have they turned these movies into it, I ask? Well, the problem is, just like what they've done to the new Star Trek, and just like they've done to just about every new film, they've made these films accessible for ADHD, Ritalin-taken, Adderall-taken school kids who can't sit still for anything anymore, who can't sit still for 5 minutes to listen to a teacher teach unless the teacher is showing visual this, that, and other. Nobody can sit and listen to a lecture anymore unless they go to college, at which point all the retards and nut jobs basically been screened out. None of them make it to college. They end up dropping out in high school simply because they can't even be sat down and talked to for anything longer than about 5 or 10 minutes without something exploding, or there has to be automatic violence on demand. There's no chance for anybody, like in these new Star Trek movies, they can't talk about politics, and they can't talk about how space is made up. They can't do that anymore. You can't have any real scientific discussion without some shit exploding every 5 seconds. Now, the Hulk films play into this perfectly because the Hulk, all he does is run around blowing shit up and smashing tanks and throwing planes and picking up helicopters. So the Hulk movies, I expect that out of the Hulk movies, but out of a Superman movie, I expect to see something intelligent. I expect to see something, romantic. I don't expect to just see effects thrown at the screen. I gotta see buildings torn to pieces. I gotta see this every 5 minutes. They really did a horrible job in this new Superman movie, and that's why I gave it 1 star. Some people are diddly-daddling with the reviews that they're giving the movie, but I'm not fucking around. I gave it 1 star. Some people did 2, some people did 3. I'm not playing that game. The movie sucked. Compared to the 1978 movie, There was absolutely, like, I've never really seen a movie lately where the entire audience sits there and it's like they're trapped. It's like nobody applauded, nobody cheered. There was absolutely no happiness in the room. The film wasn't. There was just no joy in it. It wasn't fun. The 1978 movie was fun. I just don't understand why it is that Hollywood has to keep pumping all this money into these films and making substandard films targeting a generation of people who have no attention span whatsoever. It's disgusting. Okay, and then the main villain of this film is General Zod. Now, he's played by Michael Shannon, who I originally noticed in Boardwalk Empire. The old General Zod, played by Terrence Stamp, was a lot better in some respects. Now, I'm not saying Michael Shannon is a bad actor. My only problem is because they let this movie degenerate into Invincible Man versus Invincible Man, just like in the ending of Matrix Revolutions, it really takes you out of the film. I mean, you know, what's funny is older films, they had much, much better writing. They didn't have to rely on CGI, and because of that, they were better movies. There is one obvious scene that when Zod confronts the President of the United States of America, which is going to stick out in the minds of anybody who ever saw the old films, and it's one of the greatest scenes I've ever seen.
You are the one they call president?
I am.
I see you are practiced in worshipping things that fly. Good. Rise before Zod. No. Kneel before Zod. You are not the president. No one who leads so many could possibly kneel so quickly.
And then there's Henry Cavill. I have no idea how the industry feels that they can take the all-American Superman. Mind you, Christopher Reeves was born in New York City. How do you take the all-American Superman and outsource his job to a fucking British guy? I don't understand how any casting... I don't understand how somebody could do that and be able to sleep at night. Now I'm not rejecting the film because of that, but I just think that's part of the it just shows you what's wrong with movie making today. It just doesn't make sense. The old films have ultimately set a benchmark for Superman that will never, ever be surpassed. It doesn't matter if they pour $1 billion into making one of these movies, because it's not about the money. It's about the interactions between man versus computer, man versus himself, whatever. But it's about humanity. It's not about CGI and effects. And this was a really, really good... Both of the first and the second films were excellent films for that very reason, and they'll never ever be surpassed. So I'd like to tell Hollywood, please stop making these shitty movies, because you're only embarrassing yourself and you're destroying classics.
Were on out here while he was safe in there.
Hey, you know something? You're a real pain in the neck. Yeah.